on this mountain to the white light on my street. From picking on this old banjo, the guitar sitting on my knee. Yeah. For the love and respect of the music, this is bridging the gap. For the love and respect of the music, this is bridging the gap.
Hi, I'm John Akyuz. I'm the host for Bridging the Gap. On the show, we want to bridge that gap of respect and understanding from bluegrass, country, blues, rock and roll, and heavy metal. And today I'm here at SoundCrest Music Studios in Hendersonville, Tennessee. I'm here with Mr. Greg Hutchins.
Yeah, how you doing there, John?
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you, buddy.
What do you do? What do you do here?
Well, I'm actually from kind of your neck of the woods. I was born in Kingsport, Tennessee, at Holston Valley Hospital. My dad was in the music business, played locally there. There was a fellow named Eddie Skelton that had a band together, and they played for years and years and years. Got to play with some of the old rockers like Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley and all those guys. And in fact, my dad actually saw the song "Memphis" written by Chuck Berry. He had written it on a piece of brown paper bag, and he handed it to him and said, "What do you think of this?" And my dad said, "Huh, I believe it's a pretty good song." And yeah, it turned out to be a pretty good song. But anyway, I followed my dad also into radio and started playing in his local family band there around the Tri-Cities area. And years went on and started to make some contacts here in Nashville. I played on a lot of record sessions in the Tri-City area, Kingsport, Tennessee at Tri-State Recording Studio, Classic Recording Studio in Bristol, and also Lasting Sound Studio there in Blountville. Played on a lot of records there. Met Bobby All, who went on to be a top-notch session musician here in Nashville before passing away just a few years ago. Anyway, he came to Nashville, and I had the Nashville contacts, and you know, I get up in my 30s and people say, "Boy, you're good enough, you ought to be in Nashville." So one day I thought, you know, am I good enough to be in Nashville? I'm going to give it a try. So uprooted the family, you know, with the picket fence and the whole deal, and moved down here and started working at a radio station, Weno Radio, on the campus of Trevecca Nazarene College. I'd made some songwriting contacts, and I had this song that I just knew would fit this Grand Ole Opry artist named Billy Walker. And my dad had known him because my dad had played on the Opry back in the early 60s. So I went to the Opry one time, and I said, "Billy, you've heard this a million times." I said, "But I've got a hit song for you." He said, "Well, let me hear it." I played the first verse and half the chorus, and he reached over and turned the cassette recorder off. That's how long ago it was. And I thought, oh, he doesn't like it. He said, "Oh, yeah, I'll record that." I thought, boy, that was easy. I'll just do this a couple of times a week. And it certainly isn't that easy. But anyway, Adam's Side went on to be a big record. In 1995, it was the Cashbox Magazine Independent Christian Label Song of the Year. And so Billy hired me to play drums in his band. And after that record, Johnny Cash's brother, asked me to produce a gospel record on him, which I did. And so one thing led to another, and I ended up getting to play for 18 years on the Grand Ole Opry with Gene Shepard, who just passed away a couple of years ago. In the meantime, started this studio here, and a lot of my music friends come in, and we have a good time and make Nashville records. And it's definitely magic, as you'll see later in this documentary.
Does it, when you're just sitting down recording or just in your spare time, just sitting down thinking, does it just hit you and say, how did I end up here? I've worked a lot with all these people.
Yeah, it's my heroes. You know, I was a disc jockey for years, and I would read the back of album covers, and I would see all these great players like Pig Robbins and you know, all these guys, and I'm thinking like, wow, what would it be like to meet those guys? And now, I mean, I know them on a first name basis. The first record session, professional session I ever played on here in Nashville, Pig Robbins was the piano player, and Pig is blind. And I was sitting in the drum booth, and the drum booth had a little window and had a curtain over it, and it was pulled, and I could look out that window, I could see Pig. And he so unnerved me that I reached up and pulled the curtain. He couldn't see me because he's blind, but I could see him. So anyway, it went from there, and the guys you'll see today, I mean, they played the drummer Mark Beckett tours with Olivia Newton-John and Wonder Woman, Linda Carter. Danny Parks has played for everybody, from the Dickie Betts Band to Little River Band, Amazing Rhythm Aces, and plays on a ton of record sessions. Jonathan Brown is like one of the hot session piano players in town. You'll hear his artistry today. Jim Height, great bass player, and he'll be handling the low end. So you're going to see some real Nashville magic. You'll see some what we call charts, papers, and the music is written in numbers like 1 through 8. And it's not your typical sheet music that you buy in the store, or what I call piano music. The reason that is, back in the '60s, when some of the people like Dean Martin and Perry Como and stuff started coming to town to record, in Nashville, they would hire these musicians, and their producers would bring all these big reams of sheet music, and these guys couldn't read it. They couldn't read music. So what they did, they developed their own system, because the octave stands for 8, so there's 8 notes in an octave. So it's basically, if the song is in C, C is your 1 chord. If the song's in D, D is your 1 chord. And then you go from there. Like in the key of C, C would be 1, D would be 2, E would be 3, F would be 4, G would be 5, A would be C, B would be 6, and then it turns back around. So anyway, it's the Nashville number system. That's what it's called, and that's how these guys, they'll read. In fact, 2 of the artists that will be singing, they won't even be here, and we'll record their music without them even. In fact, they're in Texas, and it will be to the note. And the miraculous thing about these guys' talent and the Nashville number system is they can walk in off the street, have no idea what they're going to record. And in 3 hours you've got 5 songs that are just like ready to be put on a record and played on the radio. So it's definitely some magic. But yeah, to be able to play with these guys and to be able, so it's so competitive. The joke down here is that you bump into a tree and a musician falls out. I mean, and they're all good. Anybody that waits tables in Nashville or whatever, they're great musicians. So it's like every little small town or area has 2 or 3 musicians that are really good. Well, Nashville is a conglomeration of all those 2 or 3 from all these areas. They're all down here, so everybody's good. Even the guys that play in nightclubs, they all read charts. And I mean, you can go in and I played a year and a half down on Broadway at a place called the Stage, and I would go in, and half the time the band was almost always different. It would be another bass player, or another steel guitar player, another singer, whatever, and yet it sounded like one. And you can go down to Broadway right now, and all those bands you hear, none of them are bands per se. They are just guys out of professional road bands that get together on their off times and play downtown. But since they know how to read charts and stuff, it sounds like they've been playing together 50 years. So Nashville's a really neat place in the respect that of what happens, but it's an intimidating place, because some guy that thinks he's really good in his hometown, and he comes down here, man, and it becomes very, very evident that, man, you're in the big leagues now. I remember the first weekend I came down, a radio job started on Monday, so I went into one of the clubs on Broadway just to hear some music, whatever, and I knew the band when they was playing for tips, and they were just like killing it. And I remember thinking, man, I've sold my house and the whole deal, and I'm moving down here into this, So it's a thing. But what it also does, if you play it all, it brings your level up. In other words, you're on your A game all the time, because these guys are on their A game. So you actually, by playing with people that, quite frankly, when you first start are better than you, it helps you to become better. Because if you don't get up to that level, you won't be here very long. Here, I'll let out a little secret. I do play bass a little bit, and I knew a few chords on the guitar. In fact, at one time I played in a 3-piece band where I actually played lead guitar. We had a drum machine and a bass player, and I played lead.
That's so cool.
But anyway, drums is my main instrument, and that's what I claim to be. So if there's any musicians, Nashville musicians in the room, and they say, "Greg, do you play any other instrument?" I go, "No." I don't, but I actually do play a bass and rhythm guitar a little bit.
Any kind of specific style of music, or maybe like rock and roll or blues?
Well,
a little bit of everything.
It was kind of funny. I started. My dad played on the Grand Ole Opry, like I said, in the city. In fact, I live right now 4 houses down from where we lived in like the middle '60s. But of course, I was around the old '50s rock and roll when he played that, and then it kind of morphed into country music. And then when he got tired of the road and moved back to, actually he went to Abingdon, Virginia, and started working at WBBI radio as an announcer. He got really, really famous. I mean, Ray Hutchins at one time, I mean, he was like the top DJ in that area. But he started a band, and I played just snare drum. We had and it was country music. Well, when I started getting to be a teenager, or whatever, a group called Creedence Clearwater Revival came around, and the genre, what we called, I guess, country rock or whatever, and the Eagles and all that stuff kind of started. So I started gravitating toward that, and actually had a band there, guitar player, wonderful guitar player from Orbank, a guy named Marvin Thompson. We put together a band, a road band, and we had an agency out of Wisconsin book us. We toured all over the United States, mostly in the Midwest. I mean, Minnesota, South Dakota. We played Deadwood, South Dakota. Played Old Style Number 10, the bar that Wobble Hickok was killed in, which his chair in Dead Man's Hand is still in a glass case over the bar. So we played all over. But what was funny was we played whatever was popular. We played a lot of disco. In fact, the name of the band was J.W. Hustle, featuring Jenny Starr. We had a female singer from Chicago named Jenny Starr, but we played funk and disco. But on break, I would go out to my van, and I'd lock the doors, and I'd put my George Jones tape in, and for 15 minutes, I listened to the most hardcore honky-tonk country music that you could listen to, and then I'd turn it off. I'd go back in, and we'd start playing Ted Nugent. so yeah, I've liked everything. I really wish I could play bluegrass, the artistry of bluegrass. If you want to talk about stellar musicians, the flat top guitar players and the banjo players, the mandolin players, fiddle players, they are phenomenal. I would like to see what the sheet music actually looked like, to the stuff that they play. But of course, being a drummer and bass player, I play upright a little bit, but not enough really to play on a proficient level. But I really wish I could play bluegrass. I love bluegrass, but that's one genre I enjoy, but I don't play. But as far as playing, I've played hard rock. I used to do the Holiday Inn circuit. In fact, I started Holiday Inn in Bristol, which is no longer there. I played there 38 weeks one year. There's only 52 weeks in a year. I played there 38 weeks. 6 nights a week. So, and it was all, Margaritaville and all the Eagle stuff, and I don't know, Brick House and Easy, and just some songs that just come to mind, Of course, Johnny Be Good and all that stuff, club music. I played that all my life. And so anyway, I played just about everything. As far as my I'll have to say, even though I played it all, I really like hardcore country music. I mean, I do. I mean, I listen to some stuff that was recorded like back in the early 70s, some of these guys. I mean, like Waylon Jennings, man, was a big hero. In fact, I got to meet Waylon. Great story. I'm playing the Opry one night. We walked back in the dressing room, and the lady I'm playing for, Gene Shepard, says, wow, Waylon looked good. And I said, Waylon Jennings is out there? She said, no, you didn't see him. I said, man, I would love to meet him. He was like my hero. She said, well, come on. So we walked back out on stage, and he's sitting in the wings, and he's got this long sleeve light blue shirt on and a black vest, got the black hat. Jesse's sitting next to him, and Gene says, Waylon, this is my drummer, Greg Hutchins. And I said, man, I know you've heard. I said, I am like the biggest fan. He said, Hollis, is that good or bad? I mean, a lot of times your heroes will break your heart. And there's some people I've met here that I admired, and I go away after I meet them and think, well, I wish I'd never met them, because it kills your thought of them. But anyway, he was just so fine. I said, one of my favorite songs of yours was Cedartown, Georgia. Never was a big hit. He said, let me tell you a story on that, Hoss. He said, we couldn't figure out who the writer was, and I said, I'll show you how to figure out who the writer is. So we released that song and had 2 lawsuits against us in a month. But he was absolutely a prince, and to get to meet your hero and him be a hero to you was just really something. But meeting Waylon Jennings was one of my all-time bucket list deals. He was like the real deal. But yeah, he really influenced me big time. Waylon did. And I like the old hardcore George Jones stuff, man. I mean, I like some really hardcore stuff. But I listen to everything, I mean, I listen to Jessica Simpson and Britney Spears and all those people, Rap is kind of an acquired taste, yeah. but I'm open to everything, and it takes talent. The one thing I don't like is for one genre of music to say imply that the other genre can't play. You know, I've had rock guitar players come up to me and say, "Oh man, I can play country music," and then proceed to do a terrible version of like Wildwood Flower. I mean, it's awful. And then on the other hand, I've heard country players say, "Oh, I can play that old rock and roll," and start playing a bunch of like power chords that sounds awful. So that's one thing. It's like, you know, everybody is a professional in their own genre, you know. So music is music, and I love it all. But if I had my preference, you know, I like the hardcore country stuff. And right now, for the last 15 years, I've been working in Christian country and gospel music, and I have a love for that too. So, and the thing is, especially in Nashville, a lot of the players you hear on the big country music records, they're playing on the gospel stuff too, and they're playing on the rhythm and blues. I mean, you know, Kid Rock and all those guys record here. So, you know, Peter Frampton lives here. Michael McDonald lives here. You know, I've recorded Donna Summer in this studio. So, I mean, there's a lot of music in Nashville. It's not just country music, but of course that's still the mainstay.
That's funny.
I heard a rumor that Bradley's barn had like a stoplight or something.
Oh, did they?
That's what I heard. It was an actual stoplight. You
I
know.
remember that. That's great.
But I remember it used to be, of course, the old studios. Oh, the light's on, you know. It is like they get some of the singers. They freeze up, you know. So we're going to we won't turn the light on. Yeah.
That's great.
Okay, you guys are on.
I'm sorry, one more for Scoop.
Go. Okay, and you're on.
I've had my share of life's ups and downs, but God's been kind. The downs have been few. I guess some would say that I've been lucky. No, I guess I would say that it's all because of you. If anyone
All right. Anybody bleeding?
Greg, if I could,
I got
if I could grab the intro in the first verse.
Come back to me.
Intro first verse. Okay, we'll get Jimbo and then we'll get Danny.
Hey, Brother Greg, you got me lit up. I'm just making sure that I'm not scratching you with my... There we go. Make sure my cable's good. B flat it is. Okay. Okay. All right.
So 4-bar intro. Okay. And you're on.
Myself into believing
After you record a session, what do you do?
All right, the session's over. We're doing what's called the tracking session. All musicians, they've done their work and they're packed up and are pulling out of the driveway. And so what we do now, we do what we call a scratch vocal. In other words, whoever the vocalist is, they don't keep what they sing that day. They just sing the song to let the musicians kind of know how the song goes. But they don't keep that vocal. They come back at a later date and sing it. And what they do is I make a what we call a rough mix of the session of the music tracks. I give that CD to the singer. He or she goes home and practices 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever, until they feel comfortable, and then they come back and record what's called the final vocal. So what we're in the stage now, we've done the tracks, and I'm getting ready to mix the rough tracks for the singer, Matt Sherrard.
I'm John Akyuz. I've been here at Hendersonville, Tennessee at SoundCrest Music Studios. This has been
Bridging the Gap!
Sit on this mountain to the white lighted on my stream. From picking on this old banjo, the guitar sitting on my knee. For the love and respect of the music, this is Bridging the Gap.